For coming down today. For those of you who don't know me, my name's David Burt. I used to run a restaurant here called the Red Avocado. That's usually where people know me from. Helped set up the restaurant down at the Kelowna Brewery there in the last couple of years, and now I'm running a weekly meal service called 4 Square Meals. Hopefully everyone got a little pamphlet or a flyer. So a little bit about the meal service, which the food you're eating right now, those samples are this week's meals, samples from this week's meals. So with 4 Square Meals, it's a once a week pickup. You can buy meals for 2, for 1, and you can go up from there if you need to. The focus is plant-based, which is what we're going to talk about today mostly, how to incorporate more vegetables into your diet. Plant-based, organic, as much local as we can do in the season, and vegan as well, yeah, plant-based. Seasonal eating comes into it. We do have the other thing I was trying to remember, gluten-free is an option too with that. So if you have any questions about that after, there's a link to a website there. Please visit the website if you like and see some more of the food I'm doing. Part of the reason for this service, or the reason to plug the service, is that I think it's fair to say that no matter, there's a lot of talk about diets, there always has been for many decades now. Vegan has been kind of a fad for a while, and the paleo thing's in now, more high protein based thing. But I think the one thing that we can all, for me that's more of a personal choice issue, and a personal body type issue, like what makes you feel good. Some types of diet don't make people feel good, so that doesn't work obviously. But within all these diets, we're all kind of agreeing that we need to eat more vegetables. I think that is the one thing that's coming through. So hence these lunch and learns. We're going to do maybe through the seasons, we'll do 2 or 3 or more of these and try and help bring the roundedness of the seasonality of the cooking that I do. Right now, I think we had Iowa sweet potatoes still in the pinto beans you had. Still got some Iowa carrots coming in, Iowa potatoes, which is remarkable really, given we're in March and it's still an ice storm a couple of days ago. But we love it, right? So rather than, I think there's a lot of information out there now. I could refer you to the China study, which is one of the bigger, more recent ones by Colin Campbell, a research study which really found that the vegan lifestyle actually promotes the most longevity, to put it obtusely, to the tune of 10 or 15 years longer. There's some, there's people who dispute his findings, but anyway, I think it's clear in the heart disease area, the cancer area, the alimentary canal area, the vegetables are, the plant-based diet is the most healthy. So that's my only proselytizing, but back to why to eat more vegetables. And not just why, because there's enough information, you can Google it, you can find out why, but the how. How do you incorporate vegetables when you don't have time? How do you cook beans when you have to soak them for 24 hours and then cook them for 5 hours or something? How do you incorporate these things? And so hopefully with the demos that I do, I'll show you some of how to do that. The thing I always encourage people to do is to think, plan ahead, because the beans do need to soak for 24 hours, but you don't need to sit with the beans while they soak for 24 hours. So if you can schedule things, that really helps, because you can have you can take the 10 minutes, maybe 5 minutes to get the beans soaking, and then as long as your meals are kind of planned, there's a little more planning involved, you can pull it off. You can put those beans on in the morning even and let them boil and let them soak in the hot water all day, and they'll be perfect by dinner. So there are these techniques. The other thing is to, when you cook beans and grains, which are the most time consuming, again, brown rice, 1 hour, but if you can get it on, you don't have to spend the hour with the brown rice. So a little bit of pre-planning. The other thing is pre-prepping, to coin a phrase, prepping. When you cook beans, cook more than you need that day, and then you can freeze them the way I do it. That's why I actually ran. That's why I ran, because this is kind of a key part of the thing. Here's the kind of thing I do. Maybe I make, this is a 2-cup thing. You can get these from Paul's. in the freezer canning section. Whatever your portion, you know, depending on the size of number of people you're feeding, you can just get a few of these. They're not expensive, and have them ready, drained, frozen, and ready. And then all you need to do is prep. You could even pre-prep, have vegetable prepping days where, you know, carrots, the harder vegetables will hold up a week easily in the fridge. The softer ones maybe only a couple of days, but if you can get ahead to planning and having items in your fridge or freezer ready to use, that's the key. That's how to incorporate these things into your diet. You can also buy the meals from me, but you know, there's also, I should point out classes, you know, there's all these levels of, if you want to learn to cook more whole foods, you know, I teach classes, find out through Kirkwood Continuing Ed. So, but this is a really handy thing, you know, and we're going to see how quickly I literally just pulled these from the freezer and ran back with them, ran hot water over them just to kind of thaw them a little bit, but you'll see how quickly we can get these done. The other thing is to, you can do this with grains too. I don't find grains freeze as well, although some people tell me they have a fine time with it. So you can experiment with that. Some people have trouble cooking grains, just practice, practice. You know, all these things are Googleable these days. So today, one of the, it's a common grain actually, but it's not used all that much, buckwheat. I'd like to include buckwheat because it has complete protein. It's one of those odd ones like quinoa and amaranth. Again, there's a lot you can read on the protein and plant-based diet. My opinion, many people's opinion, we're eating too much protein. So the small amounts you need, you can get from beans and grains in combination. And there are certain beans and grains. Soybeans are the bean, and some of the grains, buckwheat, quinoa, amaranth, they have complete protein. So many people do fine with a vegan diet and protein. I think we need to worry more about things like B12, calcium is another issue sometimes, but there are ways to mitigate those. The reduction in minerals that you're going to get because meat's such a concentrated food, but it's concentrated in a way that I said I wasn't going to proselytize, and here I go again. But it's energy. It takes a lot of energy to extract the energy. So that's one of the things about meat that I find, for my personal reasons for choosing the vegan diet is that's one of them. So buckwheat is another one. These will keep for a week in the fridge. So again, if you cook a little more than you need, you can easily stir fry up a little something that tastes different, include the variety, use vegetables to create the variety with these staples of beans and grains. And you can use the seasons to guide you with the vegetable purchases as well. So I think we'll start with this spinach. This is one of the simplest things and quickest things we can do. It's just a very simple seared spinach. I like to add a little bit of garlic for flavor, but it's not essential. I've indicated here slicing the garlic. You know, if you like the strong garlic, you could mince it. The more you cut garlic, the stronger it gets. These days I'm going away from that, so I've got just one whole garlic clove. So you'll see the gentleness that can come from using the whole garlic. As I get older, I find it harder to bear the spice of the really minced up garlic. We're also pretty lucky here in that if you go to the farmer's market, you can buy like 10 different varieties and pick your spice level, actually. It's pretty amazing here. So, I'm using extra virgin olive oil here, which is a little extravagant. But I do find that the less ingredients you have, the more the extra virgin will, you know, the more flavors you have, the less you need the extra virgin. And in fact, let's hope we don't blow it. I think we moved from over there. I'm pretty happy we did. Anyway, it's all going to happen pretty quickly. So I've got a full half pound of spinach here, which is going to reduce down quite dramatically. You could do this in a big pot too. You don't need one of these fancy wide pans. It's pretty handy for these stovetop things to have a pair of tongs, but a spoon would do. I'm just going to turn that. And the spinach's going to sear very quickly. As soon as it hits the oil, it's going to sear and do its thing. So we just want to try to make sure every leaf touches the oil and goes quickly, because the more it cooks, the more it gets that dull green. If you keep it high temperature and do it quickly, you can maintain that green, the bright green. Okay, this is where we're going to throw our buckwheat. So this is just refrigerated buckwheat. We're going to heat it up quite quickly again. This is a nice recipe to give you an introduction to the flavor of buckwheat too, if you're not familiar. It's very unique. Kind of like the one of those rices on your plate was a sesame, if you got that. It's unique in that way. There's nothing else quite like buckwheat. So again, if you have a little bit of rice, it could be even rice from, you know, eating out somewhere. A simple thing like this can make a meal of leftovers, which is a lot of what I teach actually. A tiny pinch of salt. And then there's an odd thing about greens and the iron in greens. You need vitamin C to extract the iron. So we always add a little lemon or tomato, any kind of vitamin C containing ingredient when you cook anything like the collards or the kales or the spinach. Okay, when am I going to put this on? Okay, and if I could ask my helper. My good mother is here helping me tonight. Family business. Maybe Michelle too, if you wouldn't mind. We're just going to load these up as singles. Whoops. Okay, there we go. Do we have a spoon still? We could just use a little white spoon. And we'll load them into these guys. And I think we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, about 17 it looks like. So, you know, chatting briefly while we get this going, on the inclusion of more vegetables in the diet. We've got, you know, we have a lot of, spent a lot of work in the last number of decades establishing the recommended daily allowances of various minerals, vitamins, and now this is the amount that is required to be symptom-free, right? So there's quite a difference between being symptom-free and having optimal health. So this is this gap of being just without symptoms and having optimal health, and it's the plant-based minerals that make that jump. Now they're called all sorts of things, but the widest category is called phytonutrients. It actually means from plants. Okay, let me just gather ingredients here. Now, does everyone okay with a little jalapeno? Because I can leave it out. We're all good? Does anyone not? Would really rather, because it's fine. It's a great recipe either way. Okay. So cabbage and peas. One of the, you know, I do a lot of work on local food, as many of you probably know. I'm always using these exotic spices though, the cumin, the cardamom, the coriander, and I really do encourage people to incorporate these because they're all very beneficial, again, for this optimal health situation. You're not going to die if you don't eat cumin, obviously. But if you incorporate cumin and some of these other digestants, turmeric is another particularly good one. You'll notice in Indian food, a lot of beans eaten. So there's always going to be either turmeric, ginger, or another one is asafoetida, less known here. And they are highly digestive, they help the digestion. So this is a way, if you have trouble with beans, or if you're trying to do more plant-based, beans give you trouble, try the lentils, the split beans, so the dals, they're all called dals. They're a lot more easy to digest. And if you include, ginger is the easiest, most known one here. A little ginger in there will help too. The other thing, these spices have been around so long, have been traded so long, it's almost like many of you might be familiar with Michael Pollan's idea that certain plants have taken humans around the planet rather than the other way around. So I think with these spices, that's the kind of situation. Olive oil is another one. I mean, that's been traded for millennia, all these spices. So I also appreciate them because in those seasonal times when you've got, 6 weeks of zucchini coming in, that's always the classics with the zucchini. How do you eat it and maintain the idea? At this point, it's an idea of variety, and spices are one of the ways you can do that. Okay, I best get this cooking. I'm going to risk this pan. It's not looking too good, but this is a very quick way to extract the flavor from spices. It's called a tarka. It's called a couple of different things. The tarka is the name of the pan, I believe, in India. And you do hot oil. This time you would use more of a neutral oil. Sunflower, peanut is okay, canola. And you flash the seeds, the whole seeds, in the hot oil, and it extracts the flavor very quickly. Again, if you want to cook quickly, then you don't need to deal with you can have this done in 1 minute. And you can just pour that oil over some grated carrot. Could be some you can saute the beans in it, as I'm about to do. So again, finding the techniques, it all relies on this pre-prepping thing, but if you can find techniques at the stove for making flavor quickly, that's another way to get this variety and include these different things in your diet. Okay, so right here, starting with bay leaf. This is a very new way to use bay leaf too. Traditionally, that's going to be 45 minutes in a casserole, but this is another way another flavor that is used in India sometimes in this way. And you need a fair amount of oil for this because it's easy to burn. And they should do that. It's always nice when they do that, rather than flash in a flame or don't sizzle at all. So you'll get a very quick reaction here. The bay leaves turn brown. We'll add our cabbage. Again, easy to do this in a big pot rather than these wide pans. Do this more for the visual because it is going to cook down quite considerably. So again, our first goal is to coat everything in oil. We want to get that oil onto the vegetable. Anytime you're doing the high heat type cooking, it's important to quickly get the oil touching all surfaces of that vegetable if you can. And then peas. So this in itself, if we don't add the beans, is an easy quick side with the addition of things like, another thing that we use a lot for rounding out flavor and filling this is sunflower seeds, nuts, sesame seeds, even raisins might work in something like this. Raisins, dried fruit are very good for the calcium thing, calcium and the iron. As well as, I think the best is tahini, if you are interested in that. Tahini is very high calcium. So of any of the plant-based things, I think tahini and collard greens are the two. Okay, that looks pretty nice. Now again, we're going to add these exotic ones. We've got turmeric in here, a little paprika. Could use cayenne if you like more spice. Okay. Now at this point, we'll add a little bit of jalapeno. We need all this. I've got salt and a little bit of sugar. It's a traditional Indian thing. You could omit the sugar if you like, but some of these, here we are doing cruciferous vegetables. Not like that. But cabbage can be a little bitter, and turmeric too has a bitterness. So there's all sorts of things go on in Indian cooking to offset that. It's very minuscule amounts of sugar, kind of as a flavor enhancer, the way that salt is a flavor enhancer. Okay. And then at this point here, we're almost done. You could cover, you know, I don't have a lid with me, not a big deal. Covering will help it cook a little quicker. And then here's the point, we could add any kind of bean, black bean, could be grains to this quite easily. There we go. Okay, so I think we're, yes. Say it again. Do I grow my own spices? Actually, no. I don't do. My wife does most of the growing. I don't do more of this side of things. I don't know. I don't seem to have the attention span. Yeah. So I usually get either through the co-op or Frontier. I mean, we're pretty lucky in Iowa. You know, it's a very international thing now. But Frontier Natural Food Co-op, it's where the co-op get their herbs from. So unless you need to buy pounds, the co-op's pretty good. There's almost a thing about bulk herbs. You know, I think we're pretty safe here, because I think that co-op has quite a good turnaround. But if you're in a smaller town, it's often you're advised not to do the bulk because it's set around. You can almost sometimes see the layer where they layered the paprika will be brown underneath here and red at top. So again, a lot of it is to do with consciousness. We'll do another lunch and learn on this idea of conscious eating, but it's reading labels. If you find out that information, well, how do you can't freeze and stop doing what you've been doing. I mean, we're here, we've been working, but you can begin to incorporate it in a way that doesn't close things off. And that's a hard thing, you know, when you find out something, and we're all apparently iodine deficient in America, I hear, so challenging. Okay, if I could employ my wonderful assistants again, please. We will. I didn't taste the last one, but I should have tasted it. Here we go. Yeah, we'll go for this, please. I'll taste this one, mainly for the salt. Not bad. When you do this at home, depending how much bean you add, you may have to adjust the salt, because the bean is going to suck a lot of the salt. This does have a little bit of a kick, actually. I hope everyone's okay with that. We're good in this town. That's my favorite, the turmeric paprika. You know, and we chefs get into this kind of thing, but Marianne there commented, you know, making food look good, you know, it is part of what restaurants do, and they always say this, you know, in restaurant business, food looks good, it tastes good. But even in your home life, you know, again, moving on to another talk, you know, this conscious eating idea. Like, beginning to be conscious of that kind of thing, if you're including beauty, I mean, we get into sort of ethereal, metaphysical areas, but this is a part of what optimal health is. Optimal health is not just a physiological condition, it's a social condition, it's a financial condition, it's all of this together. And so making food that looks good, well, it's good if you have kids, it's one thing. So you get my drift, but please, there will be one basically focused on that topic of conscious eating, and that will be beyond plant-based. I probably will cook plant-based, but we'll talk about more. Someone else asked me to talk a little bit about the food that we started with. So again, this is, as I said, half of this week's offering. These would be 2 separate meals. So we've got here the pinto beans. Very simple preparation. This probably did have garlic. I should have mentioned that, or hopefully someone asked. Pinto beans with the Iowa sweet potato, spinach, a little bit of onion, garlic, and star anise, just as a little background flavor. This pink rice is called a Persian rose pilaf. It's a basmati rice with farro. It's a type of wheat, an old ancient type of wheat. I think it's emmer. It's the same as emmer wheat, which, if you read the Bible, is the wheat that Moses used to make his bread. So it's an old grain, and some people maintain that if you have a gluten intolerance, these older, much more simple, they're very simple molecularly, apparently. These older grains are easier on the body. So if you're on the edge and want to experiment with that, they're certainly nutritious. With basmati rice, and that red coloring is sumac. That's a Middle Eastern spice. So it's very similar to the American sumac. They don't grind this one. I think there's something that doesn't grind. There's a little seed in the American one, so it never took off here, but it's much used in Persian and Middle Eastern cuisine. One of my favorites. The sesame one was a brown rice and amaranth. Again, complete protein there. With, I use a lot of tamari, which is a wheat-free, all-soy soy sauce. Again, there's another, we'll do one of these lunch and learns is probably going to be on organic. If you're doing soy sauce, it's one of the big four that's all, if you don't buy organic, you are getting genetically modified. So soy, corn, cottonseed, and canola. So it's many of the oils. That whole class, half of the class will be about oils. So that's what's in there with spinach and a little bit of turnip. The other one is a mung bean, that small whole bean, and that one's designed as a salad, little cucumber and tomato in there. Again, heavily spiced, heavily flavored with cumin, coriander, that kind of thing. If you had any other questions about that, I'd be happy to answer them. Happy to answer any questions while we close. You know, we try to aim for about 30 to 45 minutes. So thanks so much for coming out. Hope you enjoyed it. Nice to see familiar faces and some new faces too. So, you know, we'll be milling. So you can say hello if you like. All right, thanks.